So it's time for my National League South predictions. I've done my predictions for this season for the National League and National League North. With my predictions, they are absolutely terrible every year, but we still do it just in the off chance that I might somehow pull off some sort of miracle and get them all right. I mean, it's never going to happen, is it? Let's be honest, but we carry on anyway. First of all, this video is sponsored by OneFootball, which is a great way to stay up to date with loads of different news, transfers, scores, fixtures, all sorts of different things from across the football pyramid, not just in non-league, and in particular the National League. It's very useful, but also higher up in the pyramid in the Football League and Premier League, and also across Europe and across the world. So it's a great way to stay up to date with loads of different news, and I would recommend it. I do use it a lot. It has an average rating on App Store and Play Store of 4.7 and 4.8 on Apple and Android. So it's a very highly rated app with over 1 million people voting on each of those platforms. So if you haven't downloaded it yet, the link to download it will be in the top line of the description. But anyway, let's get straight into the predictions with number 22, which is Tonbridge Angels. Now, you could say that it is a real cop-out to put them bottom of the table, having come up through the Super Playoffs last season. They're the only team that comes into this league from the level below, having not won the title. But no, seriously, I'm putting them bottom because they haven't really made any huge signings from what I've seen compared to last season. Yes, they did well to get through the Super Playoffs, which is a horrible situation to be in, to have to go through the Super Playoffs, but they haven't really made any statement signings in my opinion, so I'm putting them in 22nd. Alongside them getting relegated, I'm predicting Hampton and Richmond Borough, who struggled last season compared to the previous 2 seasons where they've been up in and around the playoffs. Last season they finished in 15th place, and they've actually had a budget cut reportedly ahead of the new season, and they also lost their top scorer Chris Dixon, who scored 16 goals last season. He's gone to AFC Hornchurch, so it's going to be a tricky season regardless. In 20th place I'm putting Hungerford Town. They just managed to stay up last season. They finished in 19th place, but with this season, with one less relegation place from the National League South, I'm also predicting them just to finish outside of those relegation places, but not by much. That's because they haven't made any huge signings, again, similar to Tonbridge Angels. In 19th, I'm going with Chippenham Town, and pretty much they fall into the same situation as Hungerford again, a team that finished not too much above this position last season. They finished in 13th, and they haven't made any huge signings again, so in my opinion, I think they're going to finish down near the relegation zone. In 18th, I'm going with Slough Town, who were solid last season. They finished in 11th place in the National League South. But again, with the increasing strength of the league, for me, looking at their signings compared to other teams, I'm going to drop them down a little bit in the table. In 17th, I'm going with Oxford City, who finished in 12th last season. Again, they fall into the same category as a number of the different teams below them, of just not making any statement signings compared to some of the other teams in the league, which have made some really impressive ones. And that's what it ultimately comes down to when making a prediction video. But added to Oxford's situation is the loss of last season's top scorer Kabongo Chimanga, who scored over 30 goals in all competitions, to see them finish in 12th position. And he's arguably the best signing of the season at that level. Absolutely unbelievable signing in my opinion, and he did fantastically for them in the National League South, and without him in their team they could have finished a lot lower down. Those sort of goals are really, really difficult to replace, and he's gone to Boreham Wood. That's a superb signing for them. In 16th, I'm going with Weymouth, and they're a newly promoted side, the second of the newly promoted sides on this list. And they have come up to the National League South but lost their key player. Their most important player as an outsider looking in is Brandon Goodship, who scored 39 times last season to help the team to the Southern League Premier Division title. He's gone to Southend United, but they have actually brought in some really decent looking signings, so I think they will survive, but I don't think they're going to be anything higher than 16th. In 15th, I've gone with Dulwich Hamlet, who finished around about that same area last season. They finished in 14th, and they got a lot of their signings done early this summer, so they've basically gambled and got their signings done very quickly and got whoever's available rather than waiting a bit and trying to catch the players that are trying to get moves to higher levels but will eventually have to settle for National League South moves. But they've got their squad done very quickly, so it's a case of, is that going to have a bigger benefit of them in terms of getting their squad ready in time for the new season, or will there be a lack of quality compared to what they potentially could have got for the same money? We'll have to wait and see. But anyway, I'm going with 15th. And then one above them in 14th, I'm going with Concord Rangers. That's a big drop from their playoff finish last season. They notably actually got into the playoffs, but weren't allowed to take part in the actual playoff competition because of ground grading issues. They've since then lost their manager Sammy Moore and their top scorer Alex Wall. They've both gone to Hemel Hempstead Town. And last season, with them being overachievers as well, I can see them dropping it down a bit now they've lost some really key people. In 13th place is St Albans City, who finished in 9th last season, and I'm predicting something relatively similar, a little bit less because they haven't made any hugely impressive signings in my opinion. In 12th is Braintree Town, who were relegated from the National League last season, but they actually finished really solidly towards the last few months. But their manager Danny Searle has actually left and gone to Aldershot Town, so will that form actually be able to be maintained? Or will they just be looking at a potential mid-table finish? But that's what I think will happen with them. In 11th, I'm going with Eastbourne Borough, and the main reason for that is their manager Lee Bradbury, who was appointed within the last couple of months. And he was previously in charge of Havant and Waterlooville, where he got them 2 promotions up to the National League. His experience at this level, in my opinion, will help drag Eastbourne away from last season's finish of 18th. I think they'll be in mid-table at least this season. In 10th, I'm going with Wealdstone, who actually snuck into the playoffs last season right at the end. They were in about 10th ahead of the final day, but managed to sneak in and overtake 3 teams to get into the outside playoff position in 7th place. Right at the last minute. It was quite dramatic, and they actually got really close to getting to the playoff final as well. But anyway, I'm going to go and put them in 10th, something similar to where they were for the majority of last season. In 9th is Dartford, who've actually been challenging up at the top of the National League South for a number of years, apart from last season, where they really dropped off and ended up finishing in 10th. However, I'm sure they'll be looking to try and improve that, but I think it'll be around about a similar finish. In 8th, I'm going with Welling United, who've actually lost 2 really key players. Brendan Kiernan has gone to Harrogate, he scored 13 goals last season, and Nassim Al-Ghul has also left. He has gone to Dover. The manager, Steve King, has also gone, and the chairman, Mark Goldberg, has installed himself as manager, so we'll see how that goes. 7th, I'm going with Chelmsford City, who have got a very similar situation to Welling United, in my opinion. They're in 4th place last season, but they've lost a real key man in Rhys Murphy, who scored 25 goals last season, but has gone to Yeovil. For them, it's a case of can they replace the goals that he had that have now gone. In 6th, I'm going with Dorking Wanderers. Now, it's a bold move to put these up so high, but for me, they've got huge momentum heading into the upcoming season. They've risen magnificently through the leagues from a Sunday League team to a National League South team after their formation in 1999. And Mark White, their owner and manager, has been there the whole way, and he's led them up through the leagues. They've done fantastically well over the years, and they've got some real quality in their team now, with the likes of Jason Pryor, who scored 21 goals last season, and the season before that he was part of the Havant and Waterlooville title-winning team in the National League South, scoring 22 goals that season. So they're an ambitious club with a lot of momentum, and I think they'll be in the playoffs this year. In 5th is a team coming down from the National League. It's Maidstone United. It's always going to be difficult having a rebuilding job coming down from a higher league, but they have got a good fan base. They made a couple of good signings as well, in my opinion, in George Elokobi and Jake Cole, two experienced players at this level and above. But they have lost Blair Turgott, who's gone to Östersunds in Sweden. He scored 17 goals last season, I believe, which is a huge loss for them. In 4th is a team that I briefly mentioned earlier, and that is Hemel Hempstead Town, because they've poached Sammy Moore and Alex Wall as manager and striker from Concord Rangers. They worked together last season and did very well. I'm not saying that those two are the only reasons that they're going to finish higher than the 16th place they were in last season. Again, it's a bold move for me to put them up that high, especially as they have lost Jordan Parks, one of the best players in the league last season. But I do think that Sammy Moore is a very talented manager who did well to overachieve with Concord last year. He's made some decent signings, so I think they could finish up in the playoffs and be a real underdog. In 3rd, I'm going with Bath City, who again have a great manager in charge there, in my opinion, in Jerry Gill. He did fantastically at Bath last season. He was linked with jobs at a higher level, but he is staying. They have actually lost one of their key players in Anthony Straker, but they have brought in some real quality, the likes of Tyler Harvey, who comes in from Truro City, who got 22 goals last season despite Truro being relegated. That's a superb signing in my opinion, and I think that will help them maintain a push up towards the higher parts of the league. Now into the top 2, and you might be able to work out via process of elimination which 2 teams these are. Havant and Waterlooville and Billericay. Which of these 2 do you think will finish higher? Let me know in the comment section down below. And who do you think will win the title out of every team in this league? Let me know in the comment section down below. But in 2nd place, I am going with Billericay Town. Their 18-19 season was a roller coaster. It eventually saw them finish in 8th after a relatively strong start. They've spent heavy again this summer, which doesn't guarantee success obviously, and it certainly didn't last year, but spending money on superb players certainly does help. The likes of Ronnie Henry, Jordan Parks, and most impressively Gavin Gunning coming in. Gunning played 42 times in League 2 last season as Forest Green Rovers reached the playoffs. So to see him drop down to National League South, that must have not only cost a lot of money, but it is a superb signing for that level, regardless of how much he's cost. So I think they'll do solidly, but with the rollercoaster nature of what goes on at Billericay, I'm predicting they'll finish behind first place Havant and Waterlooville, who were relegated from the National League last season, but they've kept one of their key players in Alfie Rutherford, a 20-year-old hot prospect with 14 goals last season. And in my opinion, the biggest bit of business for them was bringing in Paul Doswell as manager, the former Sutton United manager. He has brought a number of experienced and talented National League players with him, the likes of Rory Deacon, Nicky Bailey, Sam Magri, Danny Kedwell, Anthony Straker, Andy Drury. Some really top players for this level that I think will help propel them right up to the top of that table and bounce back to the National League at the first attempt. But what do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, remember to hit that like button and click subscribe as well. We've got some more videos coming up over the next few days, so stay tuned for those. But I hope to see you in the next video, and thanks for watching.